Although there is some movement with these things like the trials registry, because that's a WHO-led thing, and it is pushing things towards being more open. More openness is spreading generally. You know, the opendata.gov in the UK and in the US and other countries, there's more and more data going out, making the political process and all kinds of processes slightly more transparent.
Would it be just clarify the timeline on that? The sort of period that you're talking about, you indicated there was some little time in the past, was it?
What the time?
The trials you're referring to, I just thought it'd be helpful to people to know the dates.
A typical trial would take about 3 or 4 years. A large randomized.
Yes, I mean rather, which decade or something? Is it the most recent one or earlier? You're referring to basically.
Well, I mean this now goes back, certainly 10 years.
Right. Okay. So it's in the last.
Yes, and probably. I mean, I think it was much more informal before that.
Yeah.
I started working in the MRC Trials Unit in 1971, and we'd never do a trial with industry without making it clear that we had total scientific control of the trial. And delighted to say that most companies were very happy to go on.
Well, I'm wondering if that's. I think part of the point. I mean, Gabor quite correctly talked about the timeline and so on, and which year are we talking about? I mean, there has been a shift, certainly in the way society is governed during the last half century. It's been a sort of steady shift, good or bad. It's happened the way things are done, and this corresponds then probably to a movement from the kind of trials you're talking about to the kinds of trials that were analysed by the studies that Stuart mentioned. That's what I'm wondering, and that in fact, although there might not have been so much of a problem then, maybe there has been more of a problem more recently, and therefore it is a greater need to correct. Am I reading this correctly or not?
The studies. I would have to go back and look at the periods, but it was it was looking at the 90s, early 2000s, were the sort of time periods that they were analysing.
When there was a very vigorous push in terms of
and it does depend on the country. A lot of these were studies across international boundaries. I think some of them focused particularly on the US, and there have been particular problems.
Okay,
but I think the point is that the MRC said it's a subset of the total number of trials. So that there are definitely trials that have been well managed and have all these checks and balances in place. But then there's a large number which have been independent.
So they need to be taken as the right model.
Yeah. Quick comment on that?
Yes, quick comment about coming up.
I hope in these studies that account is taken of what's called selection bias, which goes roughly like this. Why is it that the majority of mutual funds have above average performance? And the reason is because the ones that go out of business are not reported. So the lack of reporting of negative results in science is pervasive. It's not just in clinical trials. So it'd be very important to do those corrections. I just don't happen to know if that's been done.
From what I understand of the studies, they did try and remove the other confounding factors, so that there was a statistical analysis that they looked at country and institute and various other factors that might influence whether or not there was another bias involved, so that they could pick out the sponsorship bias.
Sorry, one more. There's another correction I would think would have to be made in that anybody who sets out to find a negative result about a drug is not going to be sponsored